And hi again, everyone. Welcome to the WKYC High School Football Game of the Week show. I'm Dave DeNatale alongside Tyler Carey as we head from the regular season now to the playoffs. Week 7 normally means that last third of the season, but in 2020, it means let's start the playoffs. And Tyler Carey, we're going to start the playoffs, taking a look at Division I, the only division in the state where everybody will play starting this Friday night. So that means there will be probably a few lopsided looking matchups, but there will be some interesting matchups. And we think we've picked a real good one to kick off our playoff coverage.
We do. And I will say the records in this game might be a little deceiving. We'll get into that in a little bit. But our first game of the week of the Ohio High School football playoffs will be in Medina County. We will travel to Brunswick, where the Blue Devils will host the Jackson Polar Bears. Jackson comes in at 2-4 as the 11th seed. However, 3 of those 4 losses, Dino, have come by a single point, 14-13 in every single matchup, including the last 2 games to Perry and North Canton Hoover. Brunswick, meanwhile, has undergone a bit of a renaissance this season. They've had some very impressive wins. Their only losses coming to Euclid by a touchdown and a blowout loss to Menor. No shame in that. I think that this is a very even matchup that the records may not show just at first glance, but I think it's going to be a very, very exciting football game.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the Blue Devils in week 2 in that wild one against Medina, but took away. I can remember talking to you after the game about it, just saying, okay, it's not always fancy, but it's a Mark Pinzoni team, so they love defense. They're winning with defense. They're winning with their running game and not making mistakes. And obviously you said the blowout loss to Menor, and everybody, quite frankly, in the Greater Cleveland Conference loses to Menor. But to beat their rival Strongsville the way they did, beat Elyria, beat Garfield Heights, they're having a nice season. I mean, they'd like to have that Euclid game back because everybody I talked to down there felt like that was one they should have won. But you're right. It's been a real good, solid season here for the Blue Devils, and they get rewarded now with a home playoff game.
Yeah, and I think it's really the reward for all this hard work over the past few years and what has kind of been a bit of a down period for Brunswick at times. 3 of their 4 wins this year have come by at least 3 touchdowns, Dino. The only one that wasn't was that game of the week back in week 2 against Medina. And I remember talking to you after that game. What really impressed me about the Blue Devils was their resilience, their no-quit attitude, especially when their star player, Jake Charette, went down with a very terrible injury. Ethan Fritz, the quarterback, was brilliant. 3 touchdown passes on the night, and the defense picked off Drew Aller, a Division I recruit, 4 times in that game. 28-21 really didn't indicate just how dominant Brunswick was throughout much of that football game, and especially how they were able to come back and hang on at the end. I think they've really turned a corner and are back to being one of the ultimate contenders in Ohio high school football in this region. I don't know if that necessarily means a state championship this year, but I think a win in the first round over Jackson to get into the second round against likely Canton McKinley would go a long way to showing the people that they've taken that next step. Absolutely.
Now, on the other side of things, you kind of gave us a little look at Tim Budd's team, the Polar Bears, 2-3. But 3 one-point losses, I mean, pretty crazy to lose 14-13 3 times in 1 year. Tells you, play good defense, need some more scoring. I mean, we could be in for a slugfest. But, I mean, Jackson's they've got a great tradition. It's a Star County power. I think we're in for a treat to watch them play coming up north at leaving Star County and coming up to Medina County to play the Blue Devils.
I agree 100%. And Stark County, we don't always get to cover those teams as much because they're so far away from our home base up here in Cuyahoga. But Jackson is one of those teams that year in and year out is always contending, always competing. And there were some questions early in the year. They got blown out 30-0 by a very good Kent McKinley team in that opening week. And Tim Budd wanted to see some growth. Well, I think he's seen it in the way that they've been able to compete with these teams like Lake and Hoover and Perry. Perry undefeated this year. Jackson only lost to them by 1 point, but he's not really looking for moral victories. He wants to win these games, and when you do lose those games by only 1 point, it's going to make it all the more heartbreaking. Now, I do think that this is a game that they could win against Brunswick, but he has said, he's told the press this week that he feels this Brunswick offensive line could be the best they've faced this year. So it's going to be a tall task. It will be very interesting to see what they can do if they can slow them down offensively, because we've seen the Polar Bears have trouble scoring points, but I think if they can neutralize that Brunswick offense with Ethan Fritz, then they have a shot to pull off the upset.
Yeah, when you talk about Brunswick, first player that almost jumps in your mind is Tomas Rymak, Division I, superb offensive lineman, pretty good defensive lineman too, but for our purposes in the college discussion, a Division I college offensive lineman prospect, and they'll pound on that left side all night long to try to get that running game moving and give Fritz some protection when he does go back to throw.
Yes, and it will not be, I mentioned, it will not be an easy task for Jackson to get to Rymak and get into the backfield and possibly get to the quarterback and get to the running game. I think if Brunswick can neutralize that Jackson defensive line, which with their talent on the O-line is not going to be as difficult, they can do that. I think we could be in for a blowout. But with the way that Jackson has competed this year, you can't count them out, especially in these bigger games. They're going to play up to their competition every time.
Yeah, so that's our game of the week. It's a playoff matchup, first round in this 7 week, six regular season weeks, 7 weeks playoffs. So 2 extra playoff games for us. Okay. And we'll kick it off with Jackson at Brunswick on Friday night. Now, as we said, everybody in Division I TC is going to play. Now, that's not the same, though, for Divisions 2 through 7, especially thinking, 2, 3, 4, 5. A lot of teams, think of the Chardons and the Avons and Avon Lakes and and Kirtlands are going to be off this week. Basically get a bye week before their playoff rounds start up. So it will make for some interesting lower tier matchups, which you have been working, as promised, working feverishly on this week. Now at WKYC.com, complete playoff schedules out there for Northeast Ohio.
That's right, Dino. And if you go onto our website, we now have a list of every single local matchup that will be taking place this week involving teams in our region, the Cleveland, Akron, Canton region. Now, for those of you going on that story and noticing, where's my team? Where's Massillon? Where's Avon? Where's whoever? The reason they're not there is because they will not be playing this week. A lot of those better teams will have a bye into the second round. Division I, that will not be the case. But you will notice, too, there are going to be a lot more matchups than we've had in years past, including a lot of teams that unfortunately did not win a game this year, but because of the circumstances, they are going to get their opportunity to show what they have. And Dino, do you want to start by, we're not going to go through every single matchup, but do you want to start going through some of the more notable showdowns we've got this Friday and Saturday night?
Yeah, let's do it. Starting with you've got the list, starting with maybe Division I and some of the key other matchups besides our game with the Polar Bears and the Blue Devils.
Absolutely. Well, Division I, Region 1, this is the only Division I region that features any local teams. I'll just go. St. Edward is the number 1 seed. They will be taking on 16th Plain Glen Oak, who's 0-6. Good luck, Glen Oak. The 8-9 matchup, that's going to be Strongsville and Medina. I think that's a very even showdown. Going to be interesting to see who wins that one.
Medina won the earlier matchup this year with those 2 teams. This is it's already a rematch.
Absolutely. One game that I'm really interested in, Dino, is the 12-5 game. 12th-seeded Solon, 0-3. They only played 3 games this year. And 5th-seeded St. Ignatius back in the playoffs after being absent last year. They only won 1 of their 4 games against lowly Bishop Sycamore in the opener. I think that could go either way, and it's so weird to see both of those teams matched up against each other and have only one win combined between them.
Yeah, that should be like a regional semifinal or something like that. Not almost like a play-in game for the playoffs. But I'm curious to see, especially Solings. We saw them a couple weeks ago against Kirtland. If they can elevate themselves here, because now's the time. We talked about it then. It's you only have X amount of time to get ready for the playoffs. Well, we're here. It's time to show up, and for both those teams, it's time to show up because this Division I, Region I, it's just only going to get tougher. You mentioned it. I mean, the winner of our game with Brunswick and Jackson likely will get Canton McKinley, as you can take a look now at what we've got at WKYC.com. It's only
screen share,
tougher.
baby.
Yeah, screen share, another thing like Zoom. So yeah, you can see there are some of the matchups. I love that TC. I love that Cleveland Heights Stowe matchup. We just saw Stowe last week and a gutsy win as they were able to get the victory against Nordonia. So
a very under the radar, entertaining matchup in Week 6. Dino, at more than 1,100 yards combined between the two teams. And again, the winner of the Brunswick Jackson game will take on the winner of Berea Mid Park and Canton McKinley. You've got to think the Bulldogs are going to be heavy favorites in that one, but it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens in this opening week, who really emerges as those top contenders. I got to tell you, Dino, I'm going to be shocked if it's not Mentor and St. Ignatius again in the regional final. No disrespect to the other teams, but those two just seem like they're a cut above the rest.
Yeah, you'd kind of think so anyway, right?
Absolutely. All right, Division II, real quick. Here's what you got for Region 5. Some matchups that I'm going to be looking at. Well, there's my alma mater. First of all, 0-4 Twinsburg taking on my grandparents' alma mater, Lyndhurst Brush.
Yeah, it's my dad's alma mater.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit different than it was years ago, but Brush is always a very competitive team. I expect that to be a competitive game. I'm going to be interested to see what Nordonia does against Ashtabula Lakeside. I think that they've got a shot. Them and Mayfield have a shot to beat teams that could make a run out of this first round region that don't have a bye. Akron, Ellett, and Bedford, I think, could also be a very close game in this opening week. Any that stick out to you here, Dino? Again, Some of the better teams we're not going to be seeing right away.
Yeah, exactly right. I know talking to a lot of the Nordonia people last week, they were thinking that, boy, it'd be great to have an 8-9 matchup in round 2 against Mayfield. And, those schools are separated by just a little hike down 271. So if both those teams hold serve at home, that would be, I think, a phenomenal round 2 matchup.
Absolutely. And I'd be shocked if that isn't the matchup we get in round 2. Region 6, Midview, North Olmsted, that's an all-local matchup. Lakewood and Barberton going to be taking on each other. Westlake and Wadsworth, I am very intrigued by this game. Wadsworth just 1-4, but we saw how they could score points when we featured them against Hudson, Dino. I think the problem is just that defense hasn't been able to stop anybody. And Westlake, 3-3, they've improved a little bit over the past couple of seasons. Also, North Royalton, sorry, Denise Pulverine, our boss here at 3 News, 0-6, they will be taking on Amherst Steel in the first round.
Yeah, don't sleep. Just as we continue, and again, we'll have a lot more teams playing next week, but don't sleep on Valley Forge. I thought they looked great the last couple of weeks, including a win against Elyria Catholic at Byers Field last Thursday night. Don't sleep on them as I don't know who a 5-12 matchup would potentially be or whatever the next round would be, but keep an eye on them maybe to pull off an upset or so in that Region 6.
You talk about Renaissance. They've really made their presence known in the past couple of years. Region 7, Lake is going to be facing St. Charles at home in the first round. Division 3, Region 9, this will be Chardon's region, currently the top team in Division 3 in the entire state of Ohio. Some of the local matchups, Painesville, Harvey, and Geneva. Notre Dame, Cathedral Latin, and Louisville. You and I were talking about this as a possible game of the week matchup. I think that this could be a very close game. Talmadge,
winner of that gets Aurora next week, by the way.
Oh, good luck in the second round to whoever wins that one. Talmadge and Dover. Kenston, fallen after winning the state championship 2 years ago, Dino. They are the 19th seed this year. They will face Marlington in their first game. St. Vincent St. Mary will host Akron Springfield. And Akron East and West Geauga, I'll tell you what, West Geauga has had a very good season.
Yes.
Akron East, usually one of the better teams in that Akron City Conference. They did lose some players to transfers this year when it looked like the City Series would not be playing football at all. Well, they ended up playing a 2-game season, and their prize is to face West G in the opening round. I would not be shocked to see Akron East pull off that upset, but as we said, West G's had a very good year.
Yeah, I saw two of their kids that were played formerly at Akron East playing at Stowe last Friday, and both were key players, two-way players. But, that should be an interesting game and a nice year for West G. And obviously St. Vincent St. Mary, I think they're one of the higher seeds they're going to play. They're loaded to have a good run, I think, too, in Division III.
They're always a threat in that region. And then Region 10, Sandusky and Norton, Lexington and Rocky River, Madison Comprehensive and West Holmes, and then Mansfield Senior, who went to the state championship game last year. Then Bay as well. They'll host out-of-region opponents in the opening round. We'll go to Division 4 as well. Woodbridge and Minerva, you see there. Ashtabula Edgewood taking on CVCA. This one we're going to have to look at. Orange and Lake Catholic. Lake Catholic had to cancel its game last weekend because of some positive COVID-19 tests. Currently, their playoff game against Orange is set to go ahead, but in these times, Dino, we really don't know what's going to happen until the moment we're going to kick off. We've already had a few playoff games that have been canceled due to COVID-19 or due to teams just saying, you know what, we're just going to end our season. And that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on.
Yeah, everything is so fluid right now. But, that's the first thing that kind of stood out to me when I was looking at that, like, oof, boy, I hope Lake Catholic can play. Chagrin Falls, another team, having a nice, kind of like West Geauga, those old CVC teams having nice bounce back years. And good to see Chagrin Falls in that category.
Yeah, look for them and Fairless as well to possibly make a run out of anybody in that region. Region 14 in Division 4 still. Again, some all-local matchups. You'll notice the local teams are in bold. The out-of-region teams are just the normal font. Vermilion in Ontario, Clear Fork and Milan Edison, and then other teams in here, Lutheran West, Perkins, Triway, Clearview, and Sheffield Brookside, all trying to pull off an upset this coming weekend. Firelands will be hosting Upper Sandusky as well. And in Region 15, Indian Valley and Carrollton will host home games against Indian Creek and Bexley. Again, everybody's going to be playing. We're not always used to seeing some of these teams in the postseason, so a bit of a treat for these squads to be able to get some playoff action. And I think the coaches are really going to be grateful for the experience.
No question. Everything kind of gets ramped up a little bit now when you start talking playoffs, and I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Division 5, Region 17, New Franklin, Manchester, and Jefferson area will play road games. Tuslaw will play Sandy Valley. Lutheran East and Berkshire. Berkshire always a threat in Division 5. Rootstown will be on the road. Grand Valley against unbeaten Beechwood. Watch out for Beechwood, Dino. I certainly think that this is a team that's capable of shocking a few people. Warrensville Heights, Conneaut, and Southeast also with first-round games.
Yeah, good to see Beechwood Berkshire, who we saw last year against Lutheran West in a regular season game. I know they're excited. They're having another good season. Of course, in Division 5, your reward for continued success, your reward will be at some point a date with Kirtland.
Absolutely. I'm getting a text from Brian Crane. I guess we're running out of time here. Region 18, you see Brooklyn, Chippewa, Wayndale, Willard, and then Fairview and Orville is the one all-local matchup. Division 6, Region 21, Trinity is going to host Rittman. Black River and Columbia will play. East Canton and Smithville as well. The Smithies will get a home game. Tuscarawas Valley and Canton Central Catholic as well. You also see St. Thomas Aquinas, Hillsdale, Oberlin, Cardinal, and Wellington in that region. And then in Region 22, we get Weller Crestview. I got to slow down a little bit. Weller Crestview, New London, and Margaretta and Collins Western Reserve in the all-local game. Loudonville will also face Northmore in Region 23. And then the smallest, Division 7, Plymouth hosts Lisbon, David Anderson. South Central travels to Fairport Harding. Mapleton against Cuyahoga Heights. They've had a bit of a tough year. The Redskins just
turn
won
that year around, Redskins.
Yes, they've got a chance to at least get back on track in the opening game. And then Region 27, Strasburg Franklin will play Monroe Central, and then Tuscarora Central Catholic will travel to Toronto. Dino, a lot of football this weekend. Not always used to it, but it's certainly going to be a blast, I think, for everybody involved.
Absolutely. And again, that whole schedule is available to you now at WKYC.com. We'll have a game preview up here in a little bit as well. We'll start, or at some point here, we'll get you game preview and get you more insights here on our matchup between Jackson and Brunswick. That is our WKYC.com high school football game of the week for the opening round of the playoffs. See, there we go. Back to normal there. That was cool that you get the screen share, though.
I need to remember that for next time. That way people can actually see what I'm talking about, and we don't have to go through every single one. But, Dino, I'm excited. It's going to be a great game this weekend, and it's going to be really fun to see who emerges as the champions in this crazy, wacky season of football.
Yes. 6 weeks of the regular season over. 7 weeks of postseason play begin starting Friday again. Brunswick hosting Massillon Jackson. That is our game of the week. All right, that'll do it for us. For Tyler Carey, I'm Dave DeNatale. Thanks for watching our WKYC High School Football Preview Show right here on Facebook, YouTube, WKYC.com, and our app.